Someone is manipulating you right now. And the scary part? You have absolutely no idea it's happening. It's not some villain twirling a mustache in a dark room. It's your coworker, your friend, maybe even someone in your own family. These are ordinary people using dark psychology tricks that have been refined over thousands of years, and they use them on you every single day without you ever catching on. By the end of this video, that changes. You're going to see exactly what these tricks look like, how they work inside your brain, and most importantly, how to shut them down cold. Stay with me, because trick number 4 is the one that almost nobody sees coming, and it might be the most dangerous one of all. Let's start with trick number 1. It's called the foot in the door technique, and it is one of the oldest manipulation tactics in the book. Here's how it works. Someone wants something big from you, but instead of asking for the big thing right away, they start small. They ask for something so tiny, so easy, so completely reasonable that you say yes without even thinking about it. And that's where they've got you. Because the moment you say yes to the small thing, something shifts inside your brain. You start to see yourself as someone who helps this person, someone who cooperates, someone who says yes. And once that identity locks in, saying no to the bigger request feels like a betrayal of who you are. Psychologists call this consistency bias. We are wired to act in ways that match how we see ourselves. So if you already said yes once, your brain pushes you to keep saying yes. You've seen this everywhere once you know what to look for. A coworker asks you to cover for them for just an hour. Then it becomes a full shift. A salesperson asks if you care about your family's safety. Of course you do. Now suddenly you're sitting through a 2-hour pitch for life insurance you didn't need. Someone online asked you to share one post. Then another. Then they're asking for money. The foot is in the door, and you opened it yourself. The defense here is simple, but it takes discipline. Pause before you say yes to anything. Ask yourself, if this person came back tomorrow with a much bigger request, would I regret saying yes today? That one question saves you more times than you can count. Trick number 2 is called manufactured scarcity, and it hijacks one of the most primal parts of your brain. The fear of missing out is not a modern invention. It goes all the way back to survival. If food was scarce, the people who acted fast got to eat. The people who waited died. That instinct is still hardwired into you right now, and manipulators know exactly how to trigger it. They do it by making things seem limited, urgent, or about to disappear. Only 3 spots left. This offer expires tonight. I was going to give this to someone else, but I thought of you first. Every single one of those phrases is designed to shut down your rational thinking and turn on your panic response. When you feel like something is slipping away, you stop asking whether you actually want it. You just grab. Retailers have built entire empires on this trick. Flash sales that somehow happen every week. Limited edition products that get restocked constantly. Countdown timers on websites that reset the moment they hit 0. But it's not just businesses doing this to you. People do it in relationships all the time. I've had 3 other people reach out about this. I don't know how much longer I can keep waiting for you to decide. You feel like you're about to lose something valuable, so you commit before you've actually thought it through. The way to beat manufactured scarcity is to introduce a delay. Tell yourself that if it's real and if it's right for you, it will still be available or replaceable tomorrow. Urgency created by someone else is rarely your emergency. Now trick number 3. This one is subtle. So subtle that most people experience it dozens of times a day without a flicker of recognition. It's called anchoring, and it controls how you evaluate almost everything. Here's the basic idea. The first number, word, or piece of information you receive about something becomes the anchor. Everything else you hear after that gets compared to that anchor, not to reality. So if someone tells you a jacket normally costs $500 and today it's $200, your brain says that's a great deal, even if that jacket was never actually worth $500. Even if $200 is still way more than you should spend. The original number got into your head first, and now it's pulling all your judgments toward it. Car dealerships are masters of this. They start with the full sticker price, then they start removing things, giving discounts, and throwing in extras. You feel like you're winning a negotiation when really you've been playing on their field the entire time. But anchoring doesn't stop at money. In arguments, Whoever states their position first has an enormous advantage because everyone else in the room ends up responding to that frame. In job negotiations, the first number mentioned sets the invisible ceiling or floor for the rest of the conversation. In relationships, someone might describe their worst ex in extreme detail so that by comparison, their own flaws seem minor. You're being measured against a false anchor. The defense is to always ask yourself, compared to what? Compared to the actual market. Compared to what you genuinely need. Compared to reality, not to someone else's starting point. All right, we're halfway through. And before we get to trick number 4, which I promised you is the dangerous one, I want to ask you something. Has any of this hit close to home so far? Drop a comment below and tell me which trick you've seen used on you most often. I read every single comment, and your answer might help someone else wake up to what's been happening to them. Now trick number 4. This is the one. It's called love bombing, and while the name sounds harmless, even romantic, the reality is one of the most psychologically destructive tactics on this entire list. Love bombing is when someone overwhelms you with attention, affection, praise, and connection in a very short period of time. They text you constantly. They tell you you're unlike anyone they've ever met. They make you feel seen, understood, and special in a way you've maybe never felt before. And it feels incredible. That's the trap. See, when someone showers you with that level of attention and validation, your brain releases dopamine and oxytocin at massive levels. You become chemically bonded to this person faster than you would under normal circumstances. You feel deeply connected to someone you barely know. And then, once that bond is established, the dynamic shifts. The warmth starts to pull back. They become critical. They push boundaries. They ask for things. And now you're working overtime to get back to that feeling from the beginning, the one they manufactured to hook you in the first place. Love bombing happens in romantic relationships, yes, but it also happens in friendships, in cults, in business partnerships, in mentorships. Anytime someone is trying to rapidly build your trust and loyalty so they can leverage it later, that's the pattern. The red flag to watch for is speed. Real connection takes time. If someone is making you feel extraordinarily special extraordinarily fast, slow down. Ask yourself, what do they actually know about me? What do I actually know about them? Intensity is not the same as intimacy. Don't confuse the two. Trick number 5 is called gaslighting, and I want to be very precise about what this actually is because it gets misused a lot. Gaslighting is not just disagreeing with you. It's not someone having a different memory than you. Real gaslighting is a systematic pattern of making you question your own perception of reality. It's when someone does something harmful and then denies it ever happened. When they say you're being crazy or oversensitive when you react to something that genuinely hurt you. When they rewrite history in front of your eyes and say things like you always do this, or you never get anything right, or I never said that, are you losing your mind? Over time, a person being gaslit starts to trust themselves less. They stop bringing things up because they've been trained to believe their own read on situations is faulty. They become dependent on the gaslighter to tell them what's real. This is psychological control at its deepest level, and you don't need a narcissistic partner to experience it. Gaslighting happens in workplaces when managers deny their own bad behavior and make employees feel like they're the problem. It happens in families when painful things that occurred are treated as if they never did. It happens in friendships when one person constantly rewrites what was said to make the other person feel unreliable. If you find yourself constantly second-guessing your own memory, if you always feel confused or at fault after talking to a specific person, if you apologize more than you should, and you're not even sure why, pay attention to that pattern. Keep records when necessary. Talk to people outside the relationship. Your perception of reality is worth protecting. Trick number 6 is one that almost everyone has had used against them in a professional setting, and it's called strategic incompetence. This is where someone deliberately performs a task badly or claims they can't do something, specifically to avoid responsibility and get someone else to do it. You ask someone to help clean up. They do such a terrible job that you end up doing it yourself and eventually stop asking. You delegate a task at work to someone who always seems to make it harder than it needs to be, so you step in and handle it. It looks like they're just not good at something. But watch the pattern closely. Strategic incompetence is almost always selective. The person who can't seem to remember to take out the trash somehow has no problem remembering things they care about. The coworker who botches every report you assign somehow has time to do the projects they enjoy perfectly. This trick is powerful because it transfers the burden without any confrontation. The incompetent person never has to say no. They just perform badly until you give up. And often the person being manipulated feels guilty for being frustrated because, after all, the other person was trying, weren't they? The way to handle this one is to stop rescuing. Let the consequences of poor performance land where they're supposed to land. If you keep stepping in, you're not solving the problem. You're rewarding the behavior. Trick number 7. The last one on our list today, and it might be the most socially invisible of all of them. It's called the false reciprocity trap. It works like this. Someone does something nice for you that you didn't ask for, gives you a gift, do you a favor, pays you a compliment, and instantly, without any agreement on your part, you feel like you owe them something. This is the reciprocity principle, and it's one of the most deeply ingrained social instincts human beings have. When someone gives us something, we feel compelled to give something back. That's not a flaw. In healthy relationships and functional communities, reciprocity is beautiful. It's how cooperation works. The dark version of this is when someone deliberately triggers that instinct to manufacture an obligation you never actually agreed to. Free samples at the grocery store make you feel bad about walking away without buying something. A date who insists on paying for an expensive dinner and then acts surprised when you're not interested in them afterward. A coworker who keeps doing small, unsolicited favors and then asks for something significant in return. The gift was never really a gift. It was an investment, and now they're expecting a return. The key to defending yourself against false reciprocity is understanding that you are not obligated by gifts you didn't request. Accepting kindness is not signing a contract. If someone makes you feel guilty for not repaying a favor they chose to do without asking, that guilt is manufactured. You're allowed to say thank you and nothing else. So there you have it. 7 dark psychology tricks are being used on you every single day. The foot in the door that builds compliance one small yes at a time. Manufactured scarcity that hijacks your fear of missing out. Anchoring controls how you measure value. Love bombing that builds fake intimacy at a terrifying speed. Gaslighting that makes you question your own mind. Strategic incompetence that transfers burdens without confrontation. And the false reciprocity trap that turns unsolicited kindness into invisible debt. Now here is what I want you to think about. Knowing these tricks doesn't make you paranoid. It makes you awake. Most of the people using these tactics on you aren't sitting in a darkroom plotting. Many of them learn these behaviors from their own environment and use them unconsciously. But whether it's conscious or not, the effect on you is real. And you now have something you didn't have before. You have language for it. You have a pattern to recognize. And recognition is the first step to protection. Here's your challenge for this week. Pick one of these 7 tricks and spend the next 7 days watching for it in your daily interactions. Just one. Don't try to catch all of them at once. Train your eye on a single pattern and notice how often it shows up. I think you'll be genuinely surprised. And when you catch it, don't react. Just notice. That pause, that moment of clarity between the trigger and your response, that's where your power lives. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these 7 tricks have you experienced most in your life? And who was using it on you? You don't have to use names. Just tell me the situation. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to read today to finally understand what's been happening to them. Drop it in the comments below. If this video made you see something you hadn't seen before, do me a favor and hit that like button. It takes 1 second, and it tells me to keep making content like this. And if you want to keep building this kind of awareness, subscribe to the channel right now. We go deep on psychology, influence, and human behavior every week, and the next video might change the way you see everything all over again.